the story of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce is not just another celebrity romance stitched together by headlines and paparazzi flashes. It is a modern fairy tale that unfolded quietly, awkwardly, and then all at once, against the thunderous backdrop of sold-out stadiums, screaming fans, and the relentless rhythm of global fame. And just when fans thought they had already seen every chapter of this love story, the final episode of Taylor Swift's Disney Plus docuseries, released on December 23rd, delivered something far more intimate than a performance clip or backstage montage. It delivered a love letter. Not metaphorical. Not symbolic. A real letter. Written by Travis Kelce. Read aloud by Taylor Swift. And in that moment, pop culture stood still. As the final chapter of the Eras tour approached its emotional conclusion, Taylor found herself preparing for the last 3 concerts in Vancouver. Performances that would close one of the most historic tours in music history. The Eras tour was not just a series of concerts. It was a cultural reset, a global phenomenon, and a personal journey that spanned years of Taylor's life, emotions, reinventions, and resilience. Millions watched her evolve night after night, but very few knew what was happening behind the scenes, away from the lights. That is where Travis Kelce's letter comes in, quietly revealing the emotional undercurrent that had been flowing beneath the spectacle all along. In the docuseries finale, Taylor sits in a calm, reflective moment, removed from the chaos of performance and production. Her voice softens as she begins to read a letter written months earlier, in December 2024, when Travis knew she was approaching the end of an era not just professionally, but personally. His words are not flashy. They are not crafted for the public. They are sincere, grounded, and deeply human. He writes about the tour, about the memories, about the magic of watching her command a stadium. But more than that, he writes about the moment that changed everything for him, the first time he saw her perform live, before she knew his name, before she knew his face, before she knew that the man standing in the crowd would one day become the love of her life. He describes being mesmerized, swept off his feet by a woman who did not even know he existed. And in that simple truth lies the beauty of their story. This was not a calculated introduction orchestrated by agents or managers. This was not a red carpet meeting arranged for optics. This was a man watching a woman do what she does best, feeling something genuine and daring to admit it out loud. Taylor's reaction, as she reads the letter, is unfiltered and real. She laughs softly, gets emotional, and acknowledges that reading those words right before her final shows makes it nearly impossible to hold back tears. For fans, it is a reminder that behind the icon is a person who feels deeply, who loves openly, and who cherishes being seen for who she truly is. The letter also takes fans back to Kansas City, to the night that has now become legendary in Swift-Kelce lore. That night at Arrowhead Stadium, when Travis attended Taylor's Eras tour show with one small, hopeful intention. He had made a friendship bracelet, complete with his phone number, inspired by the very culture Taylor herself had created among her fans. He hoped, perhaps unrealistically, that he might get a chance to meet her and hand it to her personally. But as fate would have it, the timing did not work out. He did not meet her backstage. He left the stadium without fulfilling that small dream. And instead of quietly moving on, Travis did something that would unknowingly change both of their lives. He talked about it. On his New Heights podcast, Travis jokingly admitted that he was disappointed, even calling himself butthurt about not getting the chance to meet Taylor. It was lighthearted, self-aware, and honest. He didn't criticize. He didn't complain. He simply shared a human moment of wanting something and missing it. That clip traveled fast. Fans loved it. And more importantly, Taylor heard it. What followed was not instant fireworks, but a gradual, genuine connection built on curiosity, humor, and mutual respect. In his letter, Travis reflects on that Kansas City night as the true beginning. Not the first date, not the first headline, but the moment when 2 separate worlds brushed against each other and something quietly clicked into place. He calls it the beginning of meeting the love of his life, a phrase that echoes deeply given everything that has followed since. Taylor reading those words aloud feels less like a celebrity moment and more like a private memory, briefly shared with the world. This sentiment is not new for Travis. Long before the letter surfaced, he had spoken openly about the impact of seeing Taylor perform. On the very same podcast, during her August appearance, he admitted that if he had never gone to that show, if he had never been mesmerized and captivated, he never would have worked up the courage to talk about her publicly. He never would have opened the door that led to everything else. In hindsight, it feels almost poetic. One concert, one bracelet, one podcast comment, a chain reaction that led to one of the most talked about relationships of the decade. What makes this story resonate is not just the romance, but the timing. Taylor Swift at the peak of her power, closing a tour that redefined what live performance could be, allowing herself to be vulnerable enough to share a love letter on camera. Travis Kelce, a Super Bowl champion accustomed to pressure and public scrutiny, choosing words over grand gestures, sincerity over spectacle. Together, they represent a rare balance between fame and authenticity. The docuseries does not portray their relationship as perfect or effortless. Instead, it highlights how different this chapter feels compared to Taylor's past experiences. She speaks about how touring once made relationships difficult, how schedules clashed, how emotional distance grew. But with Travis, there is an understanding rooted in shared experience. He understands what it means to perform in front of thousands, to carry expectation, to be scrutinized. He shows up, not just physically, but emotionally. And that support, Taylor admits, has changed everything. There is also a subtle but powerful presence woven throughout this story. Taylor's mother, Andrea Swift. Known for her intuition and protectiveness, Andrea saw something real in Travis early on. The docuseries hints that her encouragement played a role in Taylor, allowing herself to explore the connection more openly. For fans who have followed Taylor's journey for years, this detail feels significant. Andrea has been there through every era, every heartbreak, every triumph. Her approval carries weight. As the Eras tour came to an end, it became clear that this chapter of Taylor's life was not closing in loss, but in fulfillment. She was not saying goodbye to something empty. She was stepping forward with gratitude, love, and clarity. And the letter from Travis, read at that precise moment, felt like punctuation at the end of a very long, meaningful sentence. By the time the docuseries aired, fans already knew that Taylor and Travis's relationship had progressed far beyond its early days. Their engagement, confirmed later in 2025, only reinforced what the letter already made clear. This was not a fleeting romance fueled by media attention. This was a partnership built slowly, intentionally, and with mutual admiration. When Travis refers to Taylor as the love of his life, it does not feel like a soundbite. It feels like a conclusion reached after reflection, after experience, after choosing each other again and again. What makes this moment so powerful in pop culture history is its contrast to the usual narrative. There is no scandal here, no dramatic betrayal, no messy public fallout. Instead, there is growth, healing, and a love that seems to arrive not in chaos but in calm. In a world that often rewards noise, this story stands out because of its quiet sincerity. The final episode of the Era's docuseries does more than document a tour. It captures a transition. From movement to stillness. From striving to arriving. From searching to finding. And the letter, simple yet profound, becomes a symbol of that transition. It reminds viewers that even at the highest level of fame, the most meaningful moments are still deeply personal. As the camera lingers on Taylor's face, as she finishes reading, there is no dramatic music cue, no forced emotion. Just a smile, a breath, and the understanding that some stories do not need embellishment. They speak for themselves. The world watched Taylor Swift conquer stadiums, break records, and redefine success. But in this final moment, we saw something equally powerful. We saw her being loved, openly and honestly, by someone who saw her first not as an icon, but as a woman on a stage who took his breath away. And perhaps that is why this story continues to resonate. Because at its core, it is not about fame or fortune or spectacle. It is about timing, courage, and the quiet decision to reach for something real. From a friendship bracelet to a love letter, from a podcast joke to a Disney Plus docuseries, this love story unfolded in the most unexpected way. And as fans reflect on it, one thing becomes clear. Some eras end not with an ending, but with a beginning. If stories like this remind us why we fell in love with pop culture in the first place, if moments of honesty still matter in a world of noise, then this is one chapter worth revisiting again and again. And as Taylor steps into whatever comes next, one thing is certain. This is not just the end of an era. It is the start of something beautifully real. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more.